Welcome everyone to our webinar. The theme is Spiritual Development for Academic Success. My name is Karen Aoki, and I'll be hosting a panel discussion with current students who will be discussing the intersectionality between development of consciousness, development of spirituality, and also academic success. So this is our web page. I'm sure you've been to the website of our university. Our tagline is Home of Consciousness-Based Education. And self-development is a key feature of our ethos. But you'll notice on the screen that we're emphasizing many value systems and perhaps even you can call practices that are important to the culture and to the educational system at Maharishi International University. So at the heart of the development of consciousness is a practice called transcendental meditation. It's a very specific type of meditation that everyone learns at the start of their education. And there are many different types of meditation. So what we're doing specifically with transcending is using a technique to experience the quieter levels of the mind, to experience the source of thought. And the whole structure of consciousness is presented as a field of intelligence at the source of thought. So there's this idea of an intersection between the individual mind and this universal field of creative intelligence, of consciousness at the source of individual and also collective consciousness. There's other aspects you'll see featured on this website, such as organic vegetarian meals. That's, of course, something maybe that's more specific to on-campus living, but nevertheless, it shows you our value system. We also pride ourselves in using produce from local farms and also dairy from local dairies. And we also emphasize natural health and wellness, not just for students studying the Ayurveda holistic system of healthcare, but the professors really do care about the health and wellness of each student. So today we're going to be highlighting a very new theme. We haven't explored it so much with students before, but it's the intersection of self-development, development of consciousness, and development of spirituality. And we're going to find out from students today if there is a relationship, and if so, how they would define that for themselves. And then we want to take it one more step and find out from them whether or how spiritual development supports their academic and professional development. First of all, this is a accredited nonprofit university accredited by the Higher Learning Commission, and financial aid is available. So please complete your FAFSA to find out how much you qualify for, and take advantage of the financial aid calculator. It's very good at estimating how much you would qualify for. It's pretty accurate, and it only takes 10 seconds. And we want you to use the live chat feature. So like if there's a very specific question, please put it into the Q&A chat. That means when we answer it, the question and the answer goes out to the whole group of you that are joining us today. So our live chatter today is Teresa, and she's also our admissions counselor. So she'll be answering any technical questions you might have about the admissions process or financial aid. So feel free to chat with her. And this is a webinar that's really targeting anyone interested in any degree program. So these are a list of all of our programs. You'll see that we have things like sustainable and regenerative living that are very unique. And we have a consciousness and human potential degree, and a whole array of programs. So specifically today, we're addressing what does spiritual development mean, and how does MIU integrate academic studies with personal growth? And as I've been saying, we're looking at the intersection of the relationship between development of consciousness and spirituality. Okay, so let's go to our panelists, and I'm going to ask them to turn on their video. It's nice. We have a nice representative spread. Okay. All right, so let's start with Bennett. What brought you to MIU? Tell us a little bit about yourself. And just to get us warmed up on the topic, Are there any experiences of transformation or specific insights you've had that pertain to inner growth, development of consciousness that you would specifically attribute to your time here? Um,
So it's kind of funny. Many people come to MIU and then they find the all these valuable approaches and techniques and wisdom, and for example, transcendental meditation. But for me, it was the other way around. Transcendental meditation brought me here. Um, I learned back home, and it really changed fundamentally my whole life for the good. Um, so I was seeking for a place where this um, consciousness-based approach to life, or in this case to studying, was incorporated. And MIU was the perfect match. So I'm
yeah, so
doing
started with the interest in transcendental meditation first, and then,
this.
yes. Okay. Well, let's get a couple others. So let's say John. Let's go to John. And someone just said they're studying criminal justice at another university, but they're interested in self-knowledge and mental health. You're welcome to respond to that directly, but I'd like to know, first of all, who you are, how you got to MIU, and how you would define maybe consciousness at this point, and how did that understanding of consciousness shift so far in your studies?
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't know. I mean, like for me, I kind of, as recently as a few years ago, I was totally agnostic, bordering on atheistic, kind of like about any spiritual concept, about spirit, of like a concept of, God or any sort of like unifying thing that like, connects people at a level of consciousness or anything like that. And then I kind of came at it from such an intellectual level that I started looking into the science of meditation, and not even just TM, but like meditation in general and how it changes your kind of brain patterns, is so deeply tied to mental health. And my undergraduate was in psychology, and my background is in mental health. So the more I got interested in meditation, the more I, was like starting to kind of open up to these sort of bigger ideas, these ideas of like, higher forms of consciousness and things like that. And eventually that led me to uh, MIU, which I had even MIU came across my plate on like an advertisement or whatever. And then that was what introduced me to TM specifically. And then I just learned TM, I don't know, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, something like that. And yeah, I mean, it's been really transformative for me. And this whole journey has been really I'm a completely different person now than I was 3 years ago at almost every level. And it's really special being in an environment where that is encouraged and cultivated. And yeah, that there's just such an emphasis on your internal development, your psychological development, your journey towards the top of, Maslow's pyramid and self-actualization and all that, that I just have never experienced anywhere else. So it's awesome.
Can you describe the very specific mechanics of what's led to all of the changes that you're describing? Is there?
Uh, yeah. Well, I mean, for me, the biggest mechanic of meditation, and again, this kind of applies to all of them, but TM is really, powerful in its self-revelatory concepts and all that stuff. But for me, the mechanics really are about like the revealing of my patterns and stuff like that. So the more I
Mm.
meditate, the more I can kind of like, disconnect from thoughts that are coming in, and disengage from this idea that every single thing that I think is exactly who I am, and I need to react to that and be, blah blah blah. So the more that, I guess, like, mechanically speaking, it's given me some separation between me and my thoughts, and me and my routines, and me and my patterns. And it's allowed me to make changes and tweaks here and there where I needed them. And you know, I my I still feel like I'm at the very beginning of my, kind of development journey. So there's a lot of things that I'm still working on. But again, I'm in an environment now where that's encouraged, and where change is encouraged. I feel like, well, I don't want to talk too long, but like that there's a lot of value in the regular world, of not changing, on staying the same person and like not being a flip-flopper, all that kind of stuff. But like I think that life is about change. It's about, being dynamic and really embracing that and seeing who you can become. So I've really enjoyed that journey.
Well, what Michelle's asking is 64 too old to learn TM? You have to believe in God. I don't know what to believe. So yeah, John, you can touch on that a little bit and then Carmen jump in. But John, you want to say anything specifically?
Yeah, I think God is a really complicated word, just like spirituality and all this kind of stuff. You do not need to believe in God, or I mean, you don't need to believe in anything specifically. You can come at it completely intellectually, like I did, and you can just like for me, it started with as a means of developing myself psychologically. And
Hmm.
then along the way, I started to kind of like you get into kind of unified field theory, and you start to kind of connect the idea of total interconnection of all people, like even like like string theory is kind of like tied into all that. So I mean, you can have whatever definition for God that you want and still massively benefit from meditation and from being in an environment like this. It's not at all
Hmm.
dogmatic in that sense. So yeah, I mean, like I said, 3 years
Awesome.
ago I didn't believe in anything, and then I started kind of going down this route, and
Hmm.
everything started to change. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I can start with agnostic position or even maybe some idea about it. And the approach here seems to be quite systematic, scientific, theoretical, universal. So we're going to take that into the angle of spirituality in a little bit. But before we do that, Chris, I think what's going to be helpful with Chris is that you're not studying consciousness and human potential. You're coming from a screenwriting program. Of course, I know David Lynch is the name of the school there. How did spiritual development, or let's start with consciousness development, was that a part of your decision to come to MIU at all? Or was it sort of an afterthought? And also, please tell us a little bit more about you and what you're doing.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would be happy to. Yeah, my name's Chris. I am, as was said in the David Lynch program, it's an MFA for screenwriting. Um, I was guided to MIU originally in my undergrad. My undergrad was in motion pictures production at Wright State University. And my documentary professor there, Selena Burks, was actually a part of the first graduating class of the David Lynch program. And she spoke highly of the school and the experience. And I had already had a connection with David Lynch and his creative approach, just kind of how he explores abstract ideas. And that really resonated with me and taught me a lot about how I wanted to explore my own work. And so I talked with her a lot about it, and it was kind of in the back of my head. And then after I graduated, I thought, okay, what's next? I fell in love with academia, and I thought, I'm just going to keep going. And you know, learning about TM specifically came from David Lynch's book, Catching the Big Fish, and how he speaks about learning and sort of his experience with it, which really made me intrigued because I have a background and I was well aware of mindfulness and kind of that application of just being aware, but I don't necessarily know if I would have known at the time to put it in terms of consciousness. Um, when starting this program, the blend of based education with TM practice and screenwriting, it was enlightening. Really just changed everything for me. And I had to know more, wanted to learn more, and obviously learning TM as part of doing this, it was absolutely life changing. It was like flicking the light on for the first time. Not that it's not magical or anything per se. Life's still life, but
Mm.
you have just this keen sense of self that the world slows. I think in a time where we are rampantly going way too fast. And that was something I desperately needed. So that really made me gravitate more and more toward, that part of the program and just kind of diving in as much as I could.
How did it affect your screenwriting? did it change the kinds of stories you wrote or the sort of paradigms that your characters operated within, or was it a separate part of your academic process?
Yeah, it's interesting
Mm.
because I wouldn't say that it necessarily affected my, uh particular choices or directions of character. What it really assisted with, without any expectation of this, it was a surprise, was like my own confidence to explore any ideas I might have.
Mm.
Normally, I'm a kind of person where I have to be 200% believing in something in order to follow through, to finish that script or to make that project or whatever it is. If I don't feel it's that 200%, it's like, well, no, it's not good enough. What doing this and learning these principles and doing TM practice regularly, what it really allowed me to do is just roll with the ideas as they come and being confident in
Mm.
that ability to just get it out there and see where it goes. It made me more comfortable to be more explorative, you know, in that realm of creativity.
Wow. Okay. So there's like a direct effect on how you're operating within, not necessarily the stories themselves, but how you're engaging. And someone actually said to specific Chris, how do you differentiate between mindfulness and TM? Since you had a prior exposure to mindfulness, how would you describe the differences in the techniques?
It's interesting because for me, the way I read it anyway, it's like TM is exactly that. It's a technique, it's a technology that's been refined, by Maharishi. And um mindfulness is, I would describe it, I mean, they're kind of parallel in some ways. The philosophy runs hand in hand. But I think
Mm.
where TM comes into play is the technology behind it. It's sort of allowing you to funnel in and engage with a mindfulness philosophy. If that's sort of the best way I can put it. And I know the term spirituality came up, and I think that's also really relevant. But as we all know, spirituality is sort of a slippery slope, and people have different definitions of it, what it means for them. And I would effectively, I would say that it's spirituality without the fundamentalism, because you don't have to necessarily
Mm.
believe in a rigid structure of belief. It's more just something that you can utilize, um, to become, as Maharishi said, consciousness is awareness. It's inner awareness. So that's what we're doing.
Mm. That's okay. I think you hit on something new there, but without say that again, spirituality is without the fundamentalism, or it's like a
Yeah, that's,
mm,
if I had to kind of partition them, it's like
yeah.
spirituality, I think you can be spiritual and not religious. I think
Mm.
there's a dividing line, because it's not so much a fundamentalist belief or a body of belief or a specific belief. It is just that you're more aware. You're more aware that there is something within
Mm.
you or within the exterior, or, and that is essentially what, consciousness is, and finding deeper levels of consciousness is you're
That's
getting more in
beautiful.
tune with those sides.
Yeah, you got some really nice responses there. They love that, and I agree. All right, so John, do you want to play off of any of those ideas? We've already now started to develop the idea of spirituality alongside with development of consciousness, also the psychological dimension, what's happening there. And if you want to handle this question, is the idea of consciousness relative only to oneself or others as well?
Well, I just
Take
wanted
it
to
in any.
share. I loved what Chris. I love what you just said about how these sort of spiritual developmental practices and stuff like that have helped you become more confident in your creativity and like your willingness to explore the ideas that you have and not worry too much about completely fully 200% developing them before you say them. I That really resonates with me, um because I've been kind of like a self-identified as a perfectionist for a long time, and I think that's a really toxic place to get into, and it's a very easy trap to fall into in the modern world. We have all these kind of things like social media and all that stuff where we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people, and it can be really debilitating, to be trying to self-police all the time to to meet expectations that are really only created by yourself. And that's one of those things where, like, the meditation and stuff like that allows you to put a little bit of separation between those things. And honestly, like, when it comes to perfectionism and stuff like that, like I think that, like, because of how pervasive, that in the modern world, this kind of like act of comparing yourself to others and like setting unrealistic expectations for yourself, I think it's almost like it's contagious. Like, it's like a mental illness that's contagious, in a sense that the more that you perceive others to be putting expectations on you, the more that you do your best to present as meeting those expectations, which then encourages people who see you to be, self-imposing more expectations, and it just kind of spirals like that. But I think that meditation is sort of, if that's a disease, then meditation is one of the many cures for it, or at least helps to fix it. So, and one thing about our program, just when it comes to like exploring creativity and stuff like that, I absolutely love how much space in creative space we have in the classroom to explore all kinds of ideas, whether they're just your own kind of personal theories, concepts of the world, of God, of consciousness, of all these things, or I mean, it could be anything, you know what I mean? And it's just like I feel like it's an environment where I feel so much more willing to explore this kind of stuff than I was before, simply because it just felt like, maybe it was just the people I was around, but it felt stifling. It felt like, you aren't really allowed to ask those questions. You're not really supposed to make these, to change too much. You're supposed to like find your lane and stay in it. But yeah, I'm kind of wandering around now, but that really, everything you said about, that tapping into your creativity, and specifically with regard to your confidence in your own creativity, I really love that. And that really rings true, I think, at this school.
Yeah, well, I think you're both also showing a sort of dimension of studying here, which is a permission to ask new questions, and a way for the mind to move in new channels, and to then find new approaches to queries, or even your areas, your skill sets, a new approach. Yes, Carmen, what would you like to add there?
Suffering from perfectionism, I definitely was on that path as well. With TM, it allowed me to find a routine, especially with what your document had stated about, waking up at a certain time, going to sleep at a certain time, learning Ayurveda, understanding what type, the eating, the routines and everything. So that really, as far as perfectionism, that helped me. Also with a little ADHD, going off and not being able to stay focused, pay attention, react a little bit less, and just being able to stay in a focused mindset. TM really has allowed me to be able to get that under control within these last 3 months that I've been doing them. So, yeah.
What were the support structures for your routine, since you're studying consciousness and human potential?
Yeah, well, as far as the degree program, everything that our teachers, our professors were introducing to us, like I said, the routine structure that MIU has specifically through Ayurveda and that whole routine. But I think for me, the implementation from my professors allowed me to be able to sit there and say, okay, well, I know I'm going to be in this course for 30 days. I know it takes 21 days to make or break a habit. So them introducing going to sleep on time, journaling. I know with Dr. Owen, he has us journaling every time we come in and do our yoga asanas right before it. And then we go into the educational portion. So it's like they bring in the personal aspect of us, and then that creativity that we can put into our educational journey as well.
Yeah.
So it's not like, okay, well, A, B, C, D, E, it's like, do this quiz, do this quiz. It's more so, Carmen, how do you view this? How do you see this based on your perception? And I feel like that also helps us raise our awareness, and also understand the different levels of higher states of consciousness as well for us personally, because we're able to sit there and say, okay, this is how I can view it. Where do I shift, or where do I put my focus on to be able to improve in that area if it's not at its 100% to be able to achieve that 200% value.
Yeah, that's good. Covers such a range. What gives you an idea that in consciousness and human potential, it's there's a range of topics that unfold through that whole program. Bennett, did you have any influence of routine in your program? I think you came from mathematics and now you're in computer science. Did you get any of the benefits of these other aspects of knowledge, like higher states of consciousness or routine in your education? And if so, how did that integrate into these other subject matters?
I think I got very basic or fundamental improvement using good routine habits for my program. I feel like, especially in math or computer science, it's very easy to go down a rabbit hole because you have a problem and you have thousands of ways to potentially solve it. And when you keep going, it's very easy to get lost on one way. So being able to be on a good routine and also incorporating TM in my practice, it gives you a intuitive feeling more power, and it gives you a clarity of mind and ability to naturally focus on what's important, more strength. And so I feel like, even though one could argue computer and consciousness, that's two different worlds, but for me, the increasing my quality of restfulness and consciousness through fundamentally TM, but also good routine like exercise, healthy habits, healthy eating, and stuff like that. That really helped to express my creative problem solving skills on my computer more efficient and effectively.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. And I'm noticing we're having questions about how this translates to online. I know, so, Bennett, John, and Carmen had the benefit of being on campus and in a culture, but Chris, I'll get back to you, Carmen, but Chris, I was wondering if you could offer a perspective from online. Did you get any specific support for a routine? Did that even come up, or is this new to you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, so for the David Lynch program, you do go to campus at the beginning of each semester for a week. You do a week-long residency there on campus. So you kind of get a sense of what a routine would be. Obviously taking that out into kind of the working world is it's a challenge. However, you can't necessarily there isn't a way for them to facilitate you taking these steps per se. I think it is though, however, really obvious when people are, because you can see these shifts. And it takes a lot of, you basically just have to make an effort on your own accord, like that I'm going to make this a practice and that, it means something to you. For me personally, it wasn't difficult to find that because I was just so eager for it. And this isn't me just like, I'm from the Midwest, very working class. I am probably the last person to go along just to get along with something like this. But here I am sort of singing the praises of it because um, it allows you to kind of be more efficient, um, sorting through your own day and keeping things in check, even though you are dedicating more time to something. Um, it is it's a difficult thing to explain, succinctly at least. But yeah, I mean, it's just, so yeah, I mean, as long as you're making the effort, it's really not difficult to just take that time because what you come to is the realization that you want to take that time. And when you don't do it, it's almost like something's missing. Oh, I don't, you know,
And you're referring specifically to the meditation part. Did you,
yeah.
so how did you fit it into your day? Did you find that you had to stick to specific times of the day, or have you been flexible about when you get your meditations in?
I've been flexible. I've tried the rigid structure of it. For me, and I can do that. But
Mm,
if you miss it by an hour or two or what have you, as long as you're doing it, as Bob Roth says, and I took it to heart, if you're approaching it innocently and honestly, then you're
mm.
doing it correctly. So I didn't define it by those rigid outlines. I just, as long as I approach it with innocence, then that's the correct way.
Yeah, so innocence is a big part of the orientation of practice. And I think I wanted to note too that when we're talking about routine for online, it might be just having your meditations twice a day are your anchoring points. On campus, the conversation tends to shift to even ways of eating and sleeping on time, but I just wanted to make a general point that we're not suggesting that everyone has to adopt all of these lifestyle points. It's just on campus, there tends to be a lot more of that um, early to bed sort of emphasis. Online, it's a whole different ball game. People are juggling so many parts of their life, but we want to shift the conversation towards integration between, this meditation practice and specifically academic life. And Carmen, did you want to speak about that? How have you noticed the relationship between your meditation practice, development of self, and maybe very specific things to academic skills like analyzing, writing, papers, you name it. Um,
Yes. I will say for me, the best routine portion is getting to bed before 10 p.m. When I tell you I have to, because I have to wake up, get my daughter to school and, make sure everything is structured. But if I do not get in bed before 10, everything, I'm always late to any and everything. It's like a domino effect. If I'm late to one thing, I'm late to the next, the next, the next. So adopting that really allowed me to put a stronger, more structured routine together. Because it's like, oh, I have all this free time, all this free room, and I just need to be at school during this time. But then I didn't really utilize my personal time well. It would either be watching TV, not, doing my homework on time, or not sitting down and doing my evening meditation. So I started to see the effects that it took, especially when we have our long weekends, our 3-day weekends. In the beginning, I saw how much the non-structure just with those 3 days put me off course whenever I started my next block session. And then also with the block sessions, with that comes with MIU, it really helps me stay focused on one thing instead of having multiple different classes. Because with my bachelor's degree, I did that fully online because I was serving in the Marine Corps from 2015 to 2022. So when I was getting my degree during that time as well, I wasn't able to really find that hand point where it's like, okay, do your homework, do the discussion boards, put your, do your own research on your own time. Like I didn't really get that because I was at a distance learning. So that online portion really puts a hand in the discipline that we have and the respect that we have on our own journey. Because if you don't respect that, you won't be able to get your things turned in on time. You have your professors reaching out to you through email, asking for, more support. So, just that discipline, that self-respect along my journey, and building that with TM, and that structure really helped a lot. I did want to go back and answer the question David had where it said, do any of you intend to proceed with studying for your PhD? So I do plan to proceed with my educational doctorate in transformational leadership and coaching with MIU, because I do plan to get serious about my podcast, get serious about my spiritual business, the Well-Fed Self, and then also start my spiritual retreats. So getting that transformational leadership, that coaching portion down, I think is really going to help with just my business and my further learning. I think somebody had also asked what the degree could utilize, but it's really just my spiritual business, my spiritual guidance, Reiki master, healing, and everything like that. So
yeah, so just enhancing whatever direction you had already started taking.
yes.
Yeah. Well, Nicole says, thank you so much for your service, and that we appreciate you.
Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate you. It was the best experience I could ever have. But MIU really, yeah, that's where my hand point is. Because even when I was in the Marines, I was always that extra, mindset for my Marines. When it came to PTSD and suicide rates and everything, sexual assault and all of that, it really helped a lot of my Marines. I was the unit readiness coordinator. So I knew going into MIU, that was just going to help me widen my understanding of human consciousness, and then understanding my human consciousness to be able to then help everyone else, because you have to start with yourself first. I could not help anyone else until I started, helping self-awareness and everything. So I don't want to take too much time, Karen.
No, it's good. You have many, many great points there. But I'm also noticing people coming in. So one of the other three of you, do any of you have a response to, can students practice other forms of meditation? I mean, Carmen's talked about Reiki, so you can see how everything here is supporting her path. How about the others of you? Have you experienced that other practices work well with TM, or have you kept pretty much just to the TM and the advanced techniques that are offered through MIU? John?
I think when you're in class, like, again, the emphasis is on TM. So like with, at least in our program with the professors, a lot of what we talk about is in relation to TM, and a lot of the science that we explore is in relation to TM. But I think that what underlies that even more so is an emphasis on freedom and exploration, and finding out who you are, beneath all the stuff, all the layers of things and experience and bias and all that kind of stuff that we have. So, and that requires exploration. So, yeah, we've had some really good discussions in class about different types of meditation and different types of, practices in general, and about how they all kind of ultimately lead to self-exploration and self-realization and self-actualization. So, yeah, I definitely think that that you can bounce around and explore things. I think for me, I explore all kinds of different types of meditation, and I think that's the response to that has been pretty positive, so far.
Right. So I guess we're finding that, so transcendental meditation will be something that everyone learns. It's just part of it. And even online, you'll have an opportunity to get your TM instruction in even after class starts, but we want everyone, MIU will recommend or especially support you in getting the TM learned. And then as you can see, everyone here still feels very supported in keeping up other practices and exploring. The main thing is that when you're doing TM, it's just that you're not mixing up, because if you're mixing up techniques, you're not getting the value of any technique at all. So, so my husband says when he was in school, he meditated in the evening, and it was like a brand new day in the evenings. Like, he could study easily. Yeah. So that is unusual about transcendental meditation, is the emphasis on twice a day. I've heard some people say that was revolutionary. Like, oh yeah, why not?
Yeah, just to that point, it's like a preparation for the day and then a wind down for the night. So just want to say that as far as the 2 times a day,
Yeah. Also, I want to say you're also a mother through all this process. Yeah, you have a young child. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. I know somebody had said it should be taught in kindergarten. It actually is. Nora, my daughter, she will be learning her words of wisdom, or her word of wisdom, next year through TM. And then my oldest, she's going to be coming up to Iowa in a couple of weeks, and she'll be learning her word of wisdom as well. So yes, they do it very early on, and then she'll move from walking and doing it to actually sitting down after, I think at the age of 10, she'll be
Yes.
sitting down and actually meditating and doing it the way that we do as adults. And she'll do away with the walking word of wisdom.
Real quick, something I believe John said that I wanted to touch on was, you know, really the amazing thing about MIU is the self-development and it kind of developing who you are and learning who yourself, your capital self in all of this. I in undergrad it was so rigidly intellectual, which I mean it's school, so yeah, of course. But it's amazing kind of the transformation that your mind makes at MIU. Because you're thinking like what is going on? What is all, and you're really there it's like massaging your brain into a different way of thinking entirely about how education works. Not indoctrination, but like how can one attain education? And I think, because the self is so involved in that process, the person that is learning the knowledge, I think that's what makes this university incredibly special. Um,
Mhm.
and there was a question, I guess, regarding financial aid. I can speak to that. I rely solely on financial aid. Um, and I think it's very likely you would have an incredible time. I haven't had issue with that, so it would,
Very smooth. As a graduate student, right? That's where you were.
correct.
Yeah. Mhm. All right. I'm glad you said those final points. It's like a whole different style of education, but it's like it changed your way of operating. Yeah, thank you so much. And
It's like peeling back onion layers. You'll start to feel like that imposter syndrome starts to kick in. It's like, am I doing it right? Am I on the right path? Is this even naturally who I am? Is this really what I want to do? And those questions, the times where you have to reassure yourself along your journey, that's when you know you're progressing along your path, where you're sort of ego deathing a lot of the previous ways that you operated in life and before starting your degree program, TM, spiritual practices, education, whichever journey that you're currently on. So peeling, yeah.
Yeah, also like unlearning and also just a whole new.
Yes,
Yeah.
reframing the mind and relearning. I always call it reparenting yourself, always
Yes,
doing something
yes.
more. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, these are all the bonus points. So John, go ahead.
Yeah, no,
Good stuff.
I mean, that idea of it being like this fundamentally different approach to education, like that's such a good way to put it, because I was thinking earlier about how, there's a lot of times with universities, the way they market themselves is based on class size, and so they kind of like, and the idea being the smaller the class size, the more of like an intimate relationship you have with your professors, the more your questions get answered, like all that kind of stuff. Well, at MIU, the class sizes are small, but also this like idea of like intimacy with your professors is so heightened because you're actually like meditating with them, and there's just this kind of like blending a little bit of like creative perspectives and worldviews and all that kind of stuff, like, and it just kind of happens naturally. I don't really have words for it, but there's even with like our program, like I'm with Carmen in the same program, and I think there's 8 of us in our class. It'll be 9 next semester, but there's a little bit of like a resonance that's kind of like happening between us just as humans. And so we're learning together, we're growing together, we're doing all these things together, and it's just different. It's so different it's so different than my undergrad. It's so different than my, my high school and middle school experience and public education and all that. And yeah, I mean, it's got me thinking about the future in all kinds of like dynamic and exciting ways about how the more that other universities and schools and in general, the more that, everybody starts to kind of focus on this like important balance between external academic growth, and all that, and your own internal, growth and evolution and all that. So yeah, it's super exciting. It's a really, really amazing environment, and I can't say enough about it. So that's all I wanted to
Thank
say.
you. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you for
Yeah,
jumping in.
totally.
And Chris, did that transfer online too? That's kind of, I mean, how can you experience community if you're an online student?
That's a really great question. I'm really thankful to have a great group of colleagues. Everybody was in the class that I'm in. We're all, remote, maybe except for one or two of us, and but everybody was on the same page as far as just being an open book, going in,
Mm,
uh, just give me what you got. Let's see what happens, and just kind of innocently rolling with it, and just, you know, with a healthy bit of skepticism, of course, but letting that room for it to just flow and see what happens. And uh, everybody's been extremely supportive of that, and I think everybody's sort of on the same path. It's like we hit the same note. So got a great group of
mm,
colleagues. We stay in touch on WhatsApp, and we're in constant communication. So. Um,
mm.
yeah, it's been a big support structure. There's also retreats you can go to as well if you're wanting to seek further. Like, I'm a remote student, so I don't, get to spend a lot of time on campus, but I just got done with the West Virginia retreat out there, which was a phenomenal experience. So, there's always that community as well.
Good. You just answered Nicole's question. Do you have group meditations online? So yeah, there's the retreat option, like Chris mentioned. There's a few different places all around the country that host meditation retreats, but there's also online forums for group meditations. Actually, Chris mentioned Bobby Roth earlier. Bobby Roth hosts meditations every day, and it starts with inspirational message and then a guided meditation. So there's a number of resources to make you feel connected and be part of community. Should we wrap up or should we keep going?
Well, I will say we did do
Cool.
Zoom in class as well. So one of our professors, he ended up falling ill at the beginning of our course, and so we were on Zoom, and we would just do meditation just the same way. Whenever it's time to do the wind down,
Mm.
stop your mantra and everything, he would just say Jay Gurudev, and then we would all be finished. We would log off of Zoom, go to lunch, come back, do it in the afternoon. So it's very plausible as far as the online.
Thank you, everyone. So there are additional ways. Okay, so we wanted to first present all the different ways you can study as a student. There's the on-campus degree programs, but you can also study online. And something else that's developed recently is this hybrid option. So people are moving to Fairfield, but still pursuing their online studies, which allows them to benefit from some of the on-campus resources, but they still get to work full time. Or you can move to Fairfield and be an on-campus student. So that's what we mean by hybrid, is that you're living locally in the vicinity of the university. And the town is Fairfield, Iowa. It's in the southeast corner. It's very safe, and it's a small town near Iowa City. And if anyone's interested in the undergraduate program, we just want you to know that there's a generous transfer credit policy. You can transfer even up to 90 credits. So it's very handy for people who want to finish up an undergraduate degree. And more than 90% of the university students receive extensive financial aid. And so the next application is February. There's a February entry, and the deadline is January 15th. That's for undergraduate programs. There are some graduate programs available at that time. Otherwise, our main entry is August. And any web page will have the apply button. It makes it very easy to send in your application. So we have visitors weekends and visitors Saturdays. This fall, we only have one visitors Saturday available. So that's December 7th. Otherwise, we're looking at springtime for more of the visitors weekends. And just note that travel reimbursements are available if you're willing to come all the way here. Otherwise, you can continue to join our interactive webinars. So in the upcoming webinars, we'll be featuring specific programs. Today was more about the culture. And you can also request to meet a professor. And just so you know, once you are accepted, you can learn Transcendental Meditation for no extra charge. It's included for all students. So thank you for giving us some of your time today. And I hope we touched on at least enough themes across the intended webinar theme today. And we hope to see you all as part of our community. All right, thank you. And have a good rest of your weekend.